All right, so do we all have example 5 copied down? All right, so we all know that f of x is the same as what? Y. So I'm going to write this as y equals 2 over x plus 3. When you're asked to find, first of all, this notation, this means inverse. That little -1 exponent, that is the symbol for inverse. So after you write it as y equals 2 over x, step number 2 is switch your x and y. So we're going to switch x and y in our equation. So when I switch it, it becomes x equals 2 over y plus 3. And then your last step is solve for y. So now we need to solve this for y. I think the easiest way would be to make this a proportion. So we have we have x times y plus 3 equals 2. And then we need to distribute the x. So let's go ahead and distribute the x. And that'll give us xy plus 3x equals 2. All right, what do you think we should do next? Remember, we're trying to solve for y. So what would you do next to solve for y? If we do that, we'll be back where we were. So we need to get rid of, let's subtract the 3x. So then that'll give me xy equals -3x plus 2. And now we can divide by x. Divide everything by x. So this is going to cancel out on this fraction. That's going to leave you with -3 plus 2 over x. And that equals y, but we're going to put our f of x back in and put it in inverse notation. This would be my inverse function. That is my inverse. And that is it. Any questions about how we work through that? All right, couple more and then we will be finished with 5.2. So we actually have our quiz. Did I tell you all it was next Wednesday on Halloween? Yeah. It's actually going to be, oh, I said Thursday. It's going to be Friday. And I already updated Canvas. It's on Friday, which is November 1st. The quiz. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing first, f of x is the same as y. Step number 2, flip x and y. So that means that y is going to be here and here. So now I'm going to have, instead of having x in 2 places, I'm going to have y in 2 places. So that gives me x equals 5y divided by y minus 1. Let's go ahead and cross multiply it. So that'll give me x times y minus 1 equals 5y. Go ahead and distribute the x. So I cross multiply it this way, and I cross multiply it this way. So when we distribute the x, we get xy minus x equals 5y. Okay, so do you notice how we have y in two different places? If I go back to this one, when I was trying to solve it, I only had y in one place. Now we have y in two places. I have y here and here. So what you want to do, and go ahead and put this in your notes, is we need to bring both terms with the y on one side, because we're going to factor it out, but we can't factor it out as long as they're on opposite sides. So in order to do that, I am going to subtract the xy and bring it over here. So that gives me negative x equals 5y minus xy. So at this point now, we can factor out the y. Let's go ahead and factor out y. So when I take out the y, which is here and here, negative x equals, I'm taking out the y. What would I have left inside of the parentheses? What's left after we take out y? 5 minus x. So now my last step would be to divide both sides by 5 minus x. So my inverse would be negative x over 5 minus x, and that equals my inverse. And that is that. Good question. No, we cannot cancel it out because there's a subtraction sign. So we could simplify it, but it would be a lot more work, because we would have to write it. No, you can't. I'm lying. You can't simplify it. We're done. We're done there. And that's your inverse. Who remembers this from Algebra 2? A little bit. These are a little bit harder, but it's essentially everything we're doing in Chapter 5 is from Algebra 2. Okay, let's go ahead. I think this is our last one, and we'll be done. So we have y equals 2x minus 1 over x plus 4. So I'm going to flip it as x equals 2y minus 1 over y plus 4. Let's go ahead and cross multiply it. So when we cross multiply, we get x times y plus 4, and that's going to equal 2y minus 1. So let's distribute. So what we have to do, though, is we have to get these two on one side of the equal sign because they both have a y. And then those terms that don't have a y, they need to be on the opposite side. So I need to rearrange this so that my yellow is on one side and the pink is on the opposite side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the 2y and then subtract the 4x. So I'm going to bring this one over here. And then I'm going to bring this one over here. Does that make sense? So when I do that, I have xy minus 2y equals negative 4x minus 1. So go ahead and take out your GCF on the left, which is the y. We have to factor out the y so we can get the y by itself. So go ahead, factor out y.
Is that 2 or z? That's z. No, that's 2, my bad.
Oh, let me make it better, sorry. Is that better? Okay. So when I take out the y, what would I have left on the inside? X minus 2, good. And now my last step is going to be to divide both sides by what? What'd you say, Brooklyn? You said it. X minus 2, that's it. We're going to divide both sides by x minus 2. Because it's in parentheses, it's a group. So that cancels out. So my inverse function would be inverse of x equals negative 4x minus 1 over x minus 2. Now, let's go ahead and state the domain of this function and only this function. Do we have a red light in this function? We do. So what do I need to take out? Do I need to set the numerator equal to 0 or the denominator? So let's go ahead and do that. Finding the domain is one of those things that never goes away. If you see a red light, you should know how to find the domain. So the x minus 2 cannot equal 0, which means that x cannot equal 2. Go ahead and write that in interval notation. So it's all real numbers, but x cannot equal 2. Because again, I'm not sure. On the test, we may ask you for that. That's a fair question that will never go away, honestly. All right, everybody get a book. If we got a book over there, take a picture of the book. Let's get started on homework 17. Because this little pile here is pretty light. So how do we make sure we have it done on Friday? Let's get it done now. You was asking me about homework points just yesterday.